Yeah. So future Smith and Wesson, I think, is bright. We're at a place now where we've got a team in place in Maryville. I think, so for me, the biggest challenge when we were talking about moving the company was the culture, right? So a lot of us who've been around the company for a while, we have a saying here where we bleed blue, and what makes Smith and Wesson successful and what makes Smith and Wesson is not the building that we operate in, is not the location that we operate in. It's our people, right? It's not even a product. It's our people, and it's the culture of the organization, and people who will run through a brick wall for you if you need them to, and who just have a passion for this company and this industry, and and our consumers and the brand and the history of the brand. And so for us, that was to me the biggest challenge for when we had to make the really tough decision to relocate certain aspects of our operations to Tennessee was, are we going to be able to recreate that? I ran operations for the first decade of my career here. We can land on the man on the moon if we need to, right? At Smith and Wesson. So could we recreate that in Tennessee? And as we sit here about a year in now to operations at the Tennessee facility, we definitely have recreated that. We brought that culture. For me, a lot of sleepless nights. I feel comfortable now that we've got a good base of folks there, and that culture moved, and it did. And there's passion there, just like there's passion here. And with Springfield and Tennessee now being our two main locations, and that culture is strong in both locations, I think the future is bright. I think Smith & Wesson, we are like an oak tree, right? I mean, you look at some of those really cool oak trees down south that are 200 years old, and they started off as this little sapling, and now they're this massive, big, beautiful being, and it wouldn't be what it is today unless it was a nascent little sapling back. And Smith & Wesson's the same way, right? So all of that history has led to where we are today, right? All the branches and all the different product categories we're in, and the consumers that love us because of our history and because of the new and the old linked together, and I think there is an appreciation for that, very much so. In Tennessee and in the new location. So I think, the future is, I'm excited for it, right? And I think, we've got a great team who are very capable of telling that story. I think we're telling our story better than we've ever told our story before, right? And I think, we have a passion in the company and in the executives all the way down to, to the newest employee, that people want to be able to tell that story. And that's a focus of what we're doing right now, is being able to have really cool produced videos. But the point is not about the cool produced video. It's about being able to tell people who we are and where we came from and where we're going. And so, I'm excited about it.
How do you balance celebrating that and honoring that while also innovating and moving forward? How do those two things work for you?
I think that's one of the coolest things about Smith & Wesson, that we do have so much history and we've got so much credibility. I mean, you look at one of the newest product launch that we just introduced was the lever action rifle, right? It's such a cool story. Smith & Wesson were the first ones to hold the patent for the lever action. Back then it was a pistol with the volcanic. And so we just have we have brand permission to play. We have an expectation from our customers and our consumers that we're going to hold true to that legacy of American workmanship and quality, and that's again, back to the example of the oak tree. That's kind of the DNA of the company, right? Is that legacy, and then we are able to use that now. I mean, if you looked at a brand new company, one of our competitors out there who's relatively new to the space, a little bit more as a newcomer, and they came out with a lever action rifle, they're not going to be able to be successful at that because they just don't have credibility. We can do that, and we can launch lever action rifles now, as an example, that hark back to our days of 172 years ago. And we can make that modern again, that the old is new again, right? And I think there is a lot of that's in the culture today. The classics are coming back. Old is new with a different twist on it, right? I mean, you look at our lever action that we just launched, and it does have the silver black and the polymer, but still harks back, and it's the old is new again. And and I think that's going to be something that we can play on better than a lot of our competitors, and and it is something that's for Smith & Wesson is a competitive advantage.
Why is that important to your fans, do you think?
Yeah, our fans, I mean, firearms enthusiasts are are notorious for, they want to know more about the industry than anybody else. They want to be able to tell the story. They want to be able to, to have more knowledge. They're hungry and passionate. They're passionate about the industry in general and about the players that have been around since the beginning of, the firearms industry in the United States and in America. And so brands like Smith Wesson, like Colt, like Winchester, like, some of these, some of the Wild West and the birth of our nation, we were such a huge part of that. It's got a very patriotic, very, Americana. We're part of the fabric of America, and our customers love that. They love being able to tell that story. They love being able to get that piece of knowledge that nobody else has. That did you know that Smith Wesson, was the first patent holder of the lever action, and so they're passionate about the industry, and therefore easy for us to make them passionate about our company because we are such a huge part of the industry, right? I mean, and a lot of our consumers are extremely patriotic as well, right? So we fit into all of that. And then, so when we launch a new product, they're able to see the living history happening, and then they love it. I mean, and so it's a huge benefit for us. Again, I mean, it's a huge competitive advantage for us to be able to have that legacy, that we can play into that passion of our consumers. So.
How do you that's a big responsibility. How do you manage that responsibility, and how does that embolden you?
Yeah, it is a big responsibility, and I think, a lot of that, managing that responsibility is understanding what does that mean to our consumers, right? That's something that we spend, that I spend a lot of time making sure that our messaging and things that we do and the nuances that we, how we manage the business on a day-to-day basis and how we communicate with our consumers is genuine, and that it, and that it's true to our history and to what they expect of us, because they do have expectations of what Smith & Wesson means. Smith & Wesson has a very strong brand identity. And you have to understand that, as a marketing team, as an executive team, as an organization, you have to understand who are you to your consumer. Say the things that, that they expect you to say, and don't say the things that they don't expect you to say, and hold true to who we are. Again, back to that, to the oak tree example, when we stay true to our DNA, right? I mean, and then we continue to thrive, and we continue to feed those roots with continued passion about who we are. And look, at the end of the day, if we make a lever action rifle, or we make an M&P 15 rifle, or we make an M&P rifle, or we make a 1911, whether it's old or whether it's new, if we're doing it, if we're staying true to all of our the tenets of who we are and who we who the customer expects us to be, we're going to be successful.
How is that part of the Smith & Wesson culture?
Yeah, I think we very much pride ourselves on what's good enough for others is not good enough for us. Again, as you said, craftsmanship is just part of who we are and how we build our products and how we design our products. We'll take the extra step. We'll go the extra mile. Good enough is never good enough. It has to be great. So if we're going to launch a new product, or we're going to deal with an issue that came up, we're going to make sure that we go above and beyond, and that goes from our product to how we handle our compliance, and we go above and beyond. We don't toe the line. We make sure that with everything from how we manage our finances to how we manage our that's just part of the culture of Smith & Wesson. Good enough is not good enough, right? So we need to be great, and we will always be great. When you talk about Smith & Wesson, and when you say that name, and 80% brand recognition for, unaided brand recognition for a firearms company, right? I mean, people often, can't believe when I tell them that we're quote unquote only a, 500 to, sometimes over $1 billion, dollar company. They think that we're, they think we're Coca-Cola or Pepsi, because that's where our brand plays. Our brand plays with those big, consumer good companies. And so for our employees, we think of ourselves as blessed and lucky to be able to be part of this team, right? We really do. I do. It's a small team. It's not a big team, right? I mean, it's a lot smaller than you think it is, right? And so when we have a chance to work here, we're lucky. We love this industry. We love the products. We love, we love the company, and and it just does get into your blood. It gets into your veins, and it becomes, part of who you are, not just a job of where you go to work.
How does the legacy of Smith & Wesson inform decisions that are made here today? How do you all take that and move forward?
For me, It's a huge responsibility. You want to stay true to the legacy and to, we're making decisions on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes, those decisions, it doesn't really matter whether we go left or right. And sometimes those decisions really matter. And oftentimes it's not obvious which ones are going to really matter, right? I mean, it's how do we react to negative feedback we get? Who is, and it's how do we generate positive, and how do we tell our story? And there's a lot of nuance to all of that. And I'm always coming back to the touchstone of Smith Wesson is, again, 172-year-old company and has been a staunch supporter of the Second Amendment and defending, we talk about empowering Americans is our motto, right? We empower Americans, and we have been empowering Americans for 172 years, from the times of the frontier to, and it's something we're proud of, right? And how do we make sure that, again, the legacy is maintained going forward in whether it's what products we're introducing, or whether it's what messaging we're sending out on social media, or what messaging we're not sending out on social media in our marketing, or right. And so all of that, everything we do is done first and foremost through the lens of, are we staying true to our heritage, to our, to what, this company started as, 172 years ago, hard work, American ingenuity, the freedom. I mean, we talk a lot about the freedom, right? I mean, it's the freedom of, our Second Amendment rights and, and part of the Constitution of America, right? And so are we staying true to that? That's how we preserve the legacy, is we always have to have that mentality. First and foremost is, are we staying true to ourselves?
What do you hope Smith & Wesson brings to its end users, more so than just a product? What do you hope to bring to end users?
Confidence, trust, empowerment, and comfort. And not just comfort in their security, but also comfort in when they make a purchase, when they put their hard-earned money down. And I mean, a lot of times our products are not cheap, right? Because we are a premier brand, right? So we very much recognize that, folks are making a decision and sometimes saving up a lot of money to make a purchase, and they're putting their trust in us. And we need to give them comfort that that product is going to function reliably. It's going to do what they need it to do, whether it's competition or whether it's hunting or whether it's personal protection. That product is going to deliver every single time. And also, if there's ever an issue, they need to have comfort that we're going to take care of it, and we do. I think we are known very much in the industry as, you don't need to worry about with Smith & Wesson. It's going to work, and if in the odd chance it doesn't, they're going to make sure that you're taken care of. So it really does all revolve around security and comfort and and empowerment, and that's really what we want to be able to. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to make that consumer who's, again, putting their trust in us. We consider that an honor, and and it's our duty to make sure that that we're honoring that trust.